Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our guide to the best running apps for the Apple Watch. Now, the Apple Watch's key strength has always really been the App Store, and in the past I would say it's been crucial to getting a good running experience from the watch because the native workout app didn't used to be that good. It was fine for casual use, just seeing distance run, that kind of thing on your runs, but if you wanted more comprehensive tracking, similar to what you get from a sports watch, you did need to go into the App Store. Now, with the release of watchOS 9, the native workouts app is a lot better now. There are loads more stats on display there. You can use different data screens. There's some stuff like running power and running dynamics that's turned up, and a really quite impressive structured workout builder available as well. So actually, the native app now is pretty strong. However, there are certainly still apps out there that improve the running experience on the Apple Watch, I'd say. And we're going to run through those apps in this video. Now, what we've aimed to do really is pick out apps that either go above and beyond what the native workout app does, or does one thing really well, better than the native workout app does. So the advantage of having the Apple Watch is obviously you can use a different app every time you run and tailor your choice to what you actually need that day, whether it's a really good navigation app, whether you're racing, whether you want to do a really good structured workout or follow your heart rates. So we picked out apps along those lines, as well as just general good all-rounder running apps that can be the only one you use for all of your runs. One area we didn't really cover here today was the apps that aim to cover off what you get into from a Garmin or other watches in terms of training analysis. Now, there are some apps on the Apple Watch that try and do that, like Athletic and Training Today, and I just don't think they're quite there yet. And that's largely because of the hardware of the watch not really allowing them to offer the same stuff you get from Garmin and Polar and those other brands. We did this video last year as well, so you can check that out. There's a lot of overlap here, but we've wanted to do an update because with the launch of the Apple Watch Ultra, there is now a little bit more that these apps can do with the watch by making use of that action button. So WorkOutDoors is an app I've talked about many times on the channel. It's the best all-round running app for the Apple Watch, I'd say. If you're looking for something that essentially recreates the experience you get from a Garmin watch on your wrist, WorkOutDoors is the app that comes closest. Like I say, I've talked about it before. We've got a full review up from a couple of years ago. There have been some updates since then, but if you want a more detailed look at the app, there is that older review available. It's a paid app, but it's a very cheap app. It's a one-off cost of £5.99 or $6.99 with no ongoing sub. And the major pros you get with it is all the customization you can do. You can set up all your data screens and then really dive into exactly what you want to show on your wrist with different grid formations and that kind of thing. Loads of different stats are available. It's also got a great structured workout creator where you can customize the exact screens you see for each step of your workout. And then it's got these lovely colorful maps that you can have as part of your data screen or give them their own separate screen that can help you get around. You can overlay routes on the WorkOutDoors app so you can follow them very easily using the app. It doesn't have turn-by-turn directions yet. It's just a route overlaid on the map. Other thing I really like about WorkOutDoors is it really gets quite niche in how much customization you can do. And a really good example of this is you can choose where you want the distance tracking on the app to come from. So with the Apple Workout app, it uses a mixture of GPS and the watch's pedometer. Now, this doesn't work for me. It doesn't seem to recognize my shuffly stride very well, so I always end up with slightly incorrect distance readings. But on WorkOutDoors, you can set the distance readings to come from just the GPS on the watch, which is amazing. Like the GPS on the Apple Watch Ultra is really good. It's dual pan GPS, up there with the best of them. So when I use just the GPS only with WorkOutDoors, I get basically very similar readings to the Garmin Epix 2, which I think is the most impressive watch I've come across in terms of GPS accuracy. So you do get that little choice, and it's little things like that I think really set WorkOutDoors apart. There's so much detail you can dive into, and you can really get buried in these various menus on the app and really tailor it to your exact preferences. It's also been updated to work with the action button on the Apple Watch Ultra, so you can use that to take laps and start new intervals, that kind of thing on the watch. And it's also got a nifty little feature where before you start a run, it will show you if your paired sensors are connected. So it goes to a special sensor screen where it will show whether your sensors are connected. So I use a heart rate strap, or you could use the stride pod, and it will basically just go green. That sensor's connected. Now you can start your run. Whereas if you're using like the workout app in the Apple Watch, I would often have to go to settings first to see that my heart rate sensor is connected before starting the run in the app. Downsides, the big one with WorkOutDoors, it doesn't use the always on display yet. Now this is something that is being worked on, and I think it's meant to arrive some point this year. So that'll be a big upgrade, because at the moment the screen will just go black with the time of day shown until you turn your wrist, and then you'll see your stats. But that is something that's due to come. And actually, one advantage of WorkOutDoors, it's got a very responsive developer. He's online answering questions all the time and seeing what the features are that are requested for the app. And I think another one coming down the line is likely to be turn-by-turn navigation. So it's an app that keeps improving, and it's already the best app day-to-day to use for run tracking on the Apple Watch, I'd say.
So I think there's definitely an argument to say that Apple has produced one of the better wrist-based heart rate monitors on watches, particularly when it comes to running and high intensity kind of exercise where a lot of sensors kind of fail. In terms of delivering that heart rate information, whether it's on the watch or kind of off the watch in Apple's own native apps, I definitely think there's a bit of work to still be done on that front. I think obviously in watchOS 9 they've added the ability to kind of train by heart rate zones, but I do think If you care about heart rate as a metric, particularly for running, I do think there are better apps, third-party apps that you can look at. The one that's really stood out for me in terms of my testing is one called Zones. Now, there is a free version and there is a paid-for version as well. And the paid-for version essentially gives you a few more insights outside of heart rate. It lets you edit the kind of custom heart rate zones as well. You can have 4 or 5 heart rate zones to work for if you want to kind of be more kind of personalized in terms of that information. And yeah, it gives you a little bit more freedom in terms of tinkering with that heart rate information and how it's presented. But ultimately, the app itself on the watch is very, very simple, but it's slick. You know, when you start a run, basically you're getting one screen dedicated to that heart rate, giving you a very clear indication of what heart rate zone you're in. It will buzz you when you move into a different heart rate zone. They keep it very simple, but I think if you are governed or you're doing a session which is governed by heart rate, it's a very simple and elegant way to kind of look at that information. Now, when you go into the companion app, I think, again, it's a very slick kind of operation in terms of how the information is put together. The graphs feel a little bit nice in terms of delving into that heart rate information. You're also getting kind of heart rate recovery information as well to cover, you know, a better sense of your current level of fitness. You know, it's a nice piece of information to have, and as I said, you know, if you're willing to pay, you can kind of edit those kind of heart rate zones. You get these kind of additional insights. I quite like the way it presents the kind of additional kind of running metrics that the kind of latest Apple Watches can deliver as well. I think actually it's a little bit nicer than what you get on the Apple Workout itself. But yeah, I think in terms of the apps that I've seen, that I've used in terms of going for runs, and I want to kind of pay attention to heart rate only, I'm not massively fussed about where I'm going, and you know, having that kind of information outside of that, this is a really good app to do it. I think, as I said, there's probably an argument you could get away with going for the free one, but I think, you know, try the free one if you can kind of see what you will get if you go kind of for the premium version, and if you're really missing out. I think the main thing is really, you know, being more customized in terms of those kind of heart rate zones that you kind of work towards. But I think, yeah, it's a really nice kind of simple app to use. If you really care about heart rate, particularly for runs or certain runs, and you want an app to kind of do that with, Zones is a very good app, and probably the best app I've seen so far that I've used on the Apple Watch Ultra and Apple Watches in general.
Footpath is the best navigation app I've come across for the Apple Watch. I have tested several others, including things like Komoot, but I think Footpath, for running in particular, is just a really well-rounded app that does a great job of providing turn-by-turn navigation, clever stuff like elevation plots, and a variety of maps that you can download to have offline on your wrist. It's a free app, but you will need a subscription to unlock all of the best features, including turn-by-turn navigation, which includes voice directions on the Apple Watch. The sub is still pretty cheap, though. It's £3.50 a month or $4 a month, or if you buy a year up front, it's £21.49 or $23.49. So you have got run tracking in the app as well, and it is customizable. You have 3 data screens where you can customize the 3 stats on show, but it doesn't give you the depth of what you'd get from other running apps available on the watch, either the workout app or things like WorkOutDoors. Really, the advantage of this app is the navigation, which is really top notch. And actually, a really great feature about this is that you can run the Footpath navigation in the background whilst using another app to track your workout. If you select in the Footpath app, use another app to track my workout, because the watch doesn't love 2 running at once, but if you select that, the navigation will run in the background and you'll get notifications for the turns you need to take whilst tracking your actual run through something like WorkOutDoors or the native workout app. The great navigation starts with the app itself, where it's really easy to create routes by drawing your finger around a map, and it does a really good snap to route that's much more kind of intuitive and clever than the similar features on things like the Garmin app or the Strava app. Like, I almost think it would be worth just paying the subscription to have this route builder on your phone, because you can then export it to other apps. But yeah, it's a fantastic route builder, and when you're creating the route on the app, you can also set up waypoints to break up your route, which if you're obviously very handy if you're planning for an ultra marathon where there are going to be aid stations, that kind of thing you want to log along the way. You then can see things like an elevation plot with color-coded sections that show the steepness of the climbs in your route, which is important. And then that all gets beamed to the Apple Watch, where you can see a map during your run, as well as getting turn-by-turn notifications, and also that elevation plot, which is still color-coded on the watch. Another really clever thing is you can zoom into the climbs on the route by looking at the elevation plot on the watch and double tapping it. And actually, if you get to a steep climb, Footpath will automatically zoom in on the climb you're on and show you how far away from the summit you are. It's not quite Garmin's Climb Pro feature, a very impressive navigation feature, but it's not far off, and it's as good as anything I've come across on the Apple Watch for sure. Footpath also works with the action button on the Apple Watch Ultra, which you can use to toggle between your run screens, your data screens, and the map, which is great, really handy. So you can have your run tracking available, see your current pace, the distance, that kind of thing. Hit the action button, you'll go to your map where you can see where you are on your route with the next turn-by-turn direction listed at the bottom of the screen. You can also zoom in and out of the map using the wheel or your fingers, and then recenter it very easily. So it's just a really well-designed, convenient app to use when you are in need of a navigation app. The always on screen works with the Footpath app, although it kind of dims what you see in terms of the elevation plot and the map. When your wrist is lowered, you will still see the basics of your route. Then when you turn your wrist, you get the full color display. Using the turn-by-turn directions does hit your battery life a little bit. As an example, on the Footpath website, it says that if you're using turn-by-turn directions and the always on display on the Apple Watch Ultra, your workout tracking will drop to about 9 hours from around 13 if you're not using those features. So you are going to lose a little bit of battery life for it, but it still will last a long time to navigate you through long routes. So yeah, all in all, a really well-designed app that's perfect for those days or those times when you're out exploring in a new place, and navigation is really the key to your run. You're not so fussed about things like pace. You just want a route on your wrist with offline maps to see where you're going and give you directions to get you around.
One app that I found is called Runmeter. There is a free version and a pro version or elite version. You can trial it for 7 days if you're not sure, and it kind of gives you a good list and breakdown of what you get from that elite version. I think the main things being is that you can be more customizable in terms of the metrics that you see on your screens during a run. To be able to upload to Strava, you have to sign up, which I think maybe that should be a free option. I think also you're getting that kind of Siri support, so if you like to control the app from your voice, you can do that as well. And you can also trim workouts, which I think is a really nice feature. So if you forget to pause your workout when you finished your run, you can kind of trim it, and it's more an accurate representation of your run. But in terms of that experience on a run, in terms of what you're getting on those screens, you're getting multiple screens. I really like the kind of gauge you get for things like heart rate and kind of things like it will show kind of trailing pace as well and splits. So there's some really nice information or simple information that's presented, and I think in a really easy to understand way. One thing that really stood out for me is the way they deliver kind of pace, and it delivers pace in terms of zones. You can see very clearly kind of the area, what kind of pace you've been running at in your session. Very clearly it will say by percentage. And that's a really nice way, I think, to show, after you finished a run or during a run, that you are maybe sticking to a session when you say you wanted to train at that pace. You can see very clearly that you are kind of training at that pace, or you are at that time when you maybe need to pick it up in your session. When you finish that workout, you've got a pretty comprehensive app waiting for you on your iPhone. Your most recent workout's kind of broken down across multiple screens. There's extra kind of insights there you can kind of delve into. You can see your map of your routes as well. And as I said, if you pay for the elite version, you're getting a lot more in terms of that experience on the app. And I think in terms of what you're getting on the watch itself, in terms of giving you lots of information, but in a really engaging and useful way, in a way you can kind of take in when you're running. Particularly, I think the kind of pace kind of breakdown is a really nice feature there. But as I said, you can customize it pretty heavily. I think there's over 200 kind of metrics that you can kind of customize it with. So if you're looking for something that gives you a little bit more information, particularly during runs, that you can kind of look over, Runmeter is a very good app to do it. I do think it's one you're probably going to have to pay for, but what I would say is use the 7-day trial, cancel it if you're not convinced and you want to try the free version, and if you're convinced and you want those extra features, which is very well highlighted, I'll definitely go for it. But yeah, I think Runmeter for me is a really good standout, data heavy Apple Watch app that you can use, that gives you a really strong experience on the watch in terms of that data, and then gives you that off the watch too.
Yourace is an app that I think is a really great example of what the strength of the Apple Watch, which is you can just use the app that's right for the job on any given day. So for general runs, I don't use Yourace that much. It is quite a nice all-round run tracking app. You get a couple of data screens, you can set up structured workouts in there and get guided through them by the app, and it shows all the key stats you want in a very clear display that does make use of the always on display. But I think where it really stands out is its race setting, which allows you to basically correct the distance as you're running a race. So say you go past a kilometre marker in the race, it's a 3k marker, your watch is showing 3.10k, it's a bit out of whack. You hit the button on the watch and the distance will snap to 3k as it's the nearest kilometre you could have gone past. So it just means you can correct the distance as you go through the race, and then all your pace stats are accurate. You can basically see if your pacing strategy is going well or not, and it will also show a predicted finish time for your race that will also adjust when you correct the distance. It's just a really handy thing to have available. It's very similar to something like the Connect IQ app Peter's Race Pacer. There are others as well that work on Garmin's that, again, wouldn't use 90% of the time, but occasionally in races it's very handy to be able to correct the distance, especially in things like big city marathons where you know the mile and kilometre markers are going to be accurate, and you know that your GPS is going to struggle because of you're in amongst high buildings and it's just not going to work that well. Now with the Apple Watch Ultra you can correct the distance just using the action button. It's been updated to make use of that, and if you're using a series watch you have to press the 2 buttons on the side at the same time, so it's a little fiddlier, but it's still easy enough to do and worthwhile in races to get those accurate stats. So like I say, it's not an app that I would use day to day, although it is a pretty solid daily run tracker as well. It's not quite as good as WorkOutDoors, but definitely the kind of app that I would suggest just sticking on your watch and then using occasionally when you know you're going to be racing and the GPS conditions are going to be tricky. It's a free app, and actually you can go and race happily using that feature with the free version of the app, but there is a one-off cost to unlock the Pro version, which is very cheap at $2.99 or £2.49, and that unlocks things like a bit more data customization and then crucially also the direct export to Strava, which obviously makes things easier after racing. So that is it. That is our roundup of our favourite Apple Watch apps at the moment. Let us know if there are others we've missed out in the comments below. Please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.